So, evening, y'all. Welcome to another Lockdown Live chat, another international Lockdown Live chat. As usual, joined with my awesome co-host, the purveyor of all things Dracona Media, Mr. Alec Lyle. How's it going, man?
Oh, no, it's all good, man. Just chilling in Finland at the moment. Not really, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, I guess
it's
the
all
weather's
good.
all right.
Yeah, the weather's good. We don't have to deal with load shedding, South African problems.
Good old African stuff. Well, yeah, we're actually going to be jumping all the way across to good old Melbourne in Australia. Today we're joined by a little bit of melodic death metal pedigree, I guess. So let's just call them multi-session, shredder, melodic, super composer, all-around British compatriot down there in Australia, Mr. Andy Gillion. Welcome, man. Thanks for joining us.
That was the best introduction I think I've ever had. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. We're off to a great start. It could be all downhill from here. So let's see how this goes.
I'm sure it will be.
So yeah, let's kind of kick things off. We had to mention the whole British thing because there you are down in Australia now. We usually kick off these Lockdown Live chats with kind of at the beginning of how the whole pandemic started. So for you living down there, a little bit more tropical climate, I guess, during the summers and all of that, down there during the pandemic and the whole Australian lockdown, how things been going in the world of Andy Gillion? How things going for you back then and how things now?
Well, I think it's been just like for everyone, it's been a complete, what the hell is going on with the world? In Australia, I think we had about 8 or 9 months of lockdown. So about 4 years ago, I moved to Australia from the UK to clear that up if anyone's wondering. And I'm not going to complain. Australia is a beautiful place to be. Melbourne is absolutely awesome. But yeah, all I could do was just sit in my room writing music for about 9 months, which I can't complain about. I mean, it's what I would do anyway, right? So I don't think there was I didn't even realize there was a pandemic. Someone told me 9 months later there was a pandemic. I didn't even know. So there you go.
Life's been moving on, I guess. I guess this is kind of how it goes with being a composer. Now you're forced into a situation where you better be in a creative capacity, and now here you are where it's like, okay, you have to be in the studio making music because you're definitely not on the road touring. So yeah.
Well, the touring thing obviously sucks. I mean, bands are just crumbling, bands are breaking up, it's destroying, the whole live industry obviously has been dead for over a year now or whatever. And it's meant that we've not been able to tour, and we had the new album out in 2020. And obviously we didn't plan for that, but it was kind of cool in a way that we were able to bring an album out at a time like that when people needed that music, when people needed something. And it was kind of cool to do it, not like necessarily do it so that we can then quickly tour it. It was like, oh, well, it's coming out anyway, but I think everyone's desperate to hang on to something. So maybe this will bring people a little hope or entertainment briefly. But yeah, it sucks that we weren't able to jump on the back of that and do all the tours and stuff, really sad about that. And I really miss playing. I really miss playing shows, man. Yeah.
I'm sure when you get the opportunity, people will devour that and come back with a vengeance, I think as soon as live music opens, there's going to be a lot more support for it as soon as, than before, because people are so starved at this moment in time.
Yeah, in Australia, things opened up kind of months ago. Everything started opening up, and there's been a few gigs. I still haven't gone to my first gig yet, as actually going to the gig. But I've got tickets to see Pliny and Stephen Taranto in Melbourne next month, or in July, I think it is. How about over there where you guys are in South Africa? Have you got any shows going on, or is it? Same thing.
On a small scale, we do have the limitations on numbers. I think it's 250 people generally for an indoor. Now, for an underground extreme metal band, that's usually you're smiling. You're like, woohoo, we got 250. So I don't really think it changes things too much here.
Great.
So, but it's more the sense of a lot of bands not wanting to really risk getting the infection. So there's, we're dealing with this moral conundrum at the moment with bands, and a lot of the artists, like Alec included, have kind of opted the route of you in actually writing a lot of music, and just being a composer. Using this time in a way that's been kind of given to you to kind of self-reflect and make new sounds and create new stuff. So
that's really interesting. I think my plate is always quite full, so I just bury my head in the sand and get on with my work. And I've been composing for video games. I was finishing up the Mors album, which took up most of 2020 for me, which was obviously a really tricky album to put together and to finish up. And I really put everything into that. And then I found myself, okay, well, what now? Okay, I'll write another solo album. I'll finish that up. And I ended up being so productive, actually, that it scares me, which is great. But when you said self-reflection, you're absolutely right. I almost think I haven't done that in a way, and I should probably do that a bit more.
You got a bit more time. We're not done with this shit at all for any.
No. We ain't done with this shit yet. Nah. There's still time to reflect on the fucking shit show that was 2020 and is 2021 and all the rest of it. Yeah.
So we've been talking about the album quite a bit that came out in 2020, and normally part of your process is you head across to Panic Room and you film some sort of vlog around the mixing and the mastering of the album. And obviously you weren't able to do that and be as involved in the process this time. How did you manage that process, like remotely?
Well, actually, we usually we mix everything. We mix and master with a guy called Plek, who's one of my best friends in Sweden, as you said, the Panic Room. And we usually fly over there for a week or two, and we're there throughout that process. But he's like so good that I've worked with him on so many albums now. I think I've done 5 albums with him, including my solo album Never After. So like we know how each other work really well. So I was never worried, honestly, about him handling those duties. But the amazing thing this time was that technology is really caught up, and there's something now where I cannot remember that. I'm really annoyed that I can't remember the name of the software. You might even know yourselves, but you can basically in the studio, in the DAW, like Logic, Cubase, Pro Tools, whatever, you have this kind of live streaming thing going on where he can mix the album with me there. So I stayed up late nights and full days just being virtually in the studio with him, and he would say to me, he would type a message like, okay, I'm going to play it again from 3 minutes 12. Does this glockenspiel sound tight enough to you? And I would just be listening to it in real time. Totally wild experience, like mixing an album in real time with someone who's in Sweden when I'm in Australia. And we did that for a full week until it was done. Totally mad. Absolutely mad.
That's awesome.
That is mental.
And one thing that's better about that is at the end of a mix, you always get the notes that come back from the band. And it's like, well, the drummer really likes the splash, but maybe you could replace it with a cowbell. And then like the guitarist needs the E string to be 2 decibels louder. All these stupid things from all these different members. And it drives mixing engineers mad. But what we did was I just listened to it. And then I went, okay, that lead guitar goes up 2 decibels. That one goes down. And we went through the whole album like that. And then it was just done. It's an amazing process.
And that's awesome.
Man, that is so awesome. Well, let's go back even a little bit further. Let's go back to a sunnier time in 2019 when the Never After album actually came out. Also, so much stuff that went around. That's such a work of art. Really.
Thank you so much.
What was really inspiring about it is actually the number of like acclaimed artists and I guess musicians that you actually had involved with the entire process. So reflecting back on that, if you will, how was the process working with all of these guys scattered across the globe and all of that?
It was a dream, an absolute dream come true. I didn't expect. I'd met Jeff Loomis a couple of times backstage at a couple of festivals, and I toured with The Agonist, which is a band that Elisa from Arch Enemy used to be the singer of. And I'd spent 3 weeks on a bus with Elisa, so we became friends, but that was back in 2013 or something. And so I had some sort of common ground, and I messaged him and I was talking to him. I was like, yeah, you probably don't remember me, da 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 da. Kind of know Elise. That was my way, and I was like, you kind of know. I kind of know Elise, Yeah. And then we started talking, and then he was like, yeah, I'll definitely do a solo for you. And suddenly I'm like, holy shit, Jeff Loomis is going to be on this album. And I bumped into Samus, 66 Samus, the drummer at NAMM, the NAMM convention. He ended up being a huge fan of Mors, so he was like thrilled to be a part of it, and it all just came together. And now I'm really good friends with Jeff, actually. So like it's amazing how things work out. Crazy. Like Jeff Loomis Skypes me every now and then, asking me questions about how to use Cubase and stuff. It's mad. And I really had to pinch myself. I was like, hang on a minute. This is the guy who I literally, I didn't have posters on my wall, but I might as well have had posters on my wall of Jeff Loomis, And now suddenly I'm giving him lessons on music. This doesn't make any sense. Something's gone wrong. Yeah, it was wild. Absolutely wild. Yeah.
Mental.
That's awesome. So we went back to the beginning of lockdown. I want to go even further back. Let's hear a little bit about your origin story when it comes to how you ended up joining Mors Principium Est. I don't know, maybe some of our audience won't know that, so I think it's quite an interesting thing to touch on.
Yeah, again, that's a pretty wild one too. I was kind of a fan of the band already. The Unborn album was one of my favorite albums at the time, and both of their guitar players left at the same time, and it was like, oh shit, is the band going to carry on? Is it gonna die out? And eventually, there was a post on Facebook that a friend of mine saw, and he said, "Yo, you've got to audition. They're auditioning for a songwriter." And I just thought, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. And I don't know. I just thought I'll just give it a go. And I sent an email. I wrote a few demos, and then it just, the next thing I know, they booked me on a flight to Finland. Next thing I know, I'm fucking in a sauna with these guys, and not fucking in a sauna. We'll cut that out. We can't, it's live. No, seriously though, we had a good time, not like that. And we hit it off, and it was like, yeah, this guy's in the band. I was quite a lot younger than those guys, but I think they saw something in me, and they knew that I could write music. I was hell-bent on proving I could write full albums myself, and I'd just done that with my previous band, Shadow Law, and I was like, yeah, I can do this. At no point was I guess I was kind of cockier back then, because I was like 22 or something when I joined. But I wanted that moment, for so long. I've really worked my ass off, and I was like, this is the moment I'm going to grab it by the balls, and I'm going to rip them off as well. And I'll probably eat them. So it worked out. I ended up, doing, I think it's been 10 years now, been in the band. It's wild.
Crazy.
It's so crazy. And I mean, obviously in the midst of all of that, you've done so many guest appearances, so many kind of collabs. I mean, obviously your solo album, and I actually wanted to go right back into that. But the whole idea with Never After, if there was one thing that I think we can probably all agree on, is that it really elevated your compositions in terms of orchestration. were there certain elements that you tried to bring into that for the new Mors album, like moving forward, like just the bombastic, like huge reverby orchestral type sounds that you used and all of that? So.
Do you know what? It was actually before Never After that change happened. So I kind of have a classical background in music, kind of classical piano and things like that. And I always knew I could write orchestra, but I always did kind of orchestra just for fun. And I never really had the tools to do the big orchestra stuff on a big level. And I met someone in my hometown in Bristol in England who worked for the BBC. He's actually the nephew of Harry Gregson Williams, who's a Hollywood composer, and he did the Metal Gear Solid soundtrack and all kinds of shit. So this guy was like, I gotta get in with this guy. Like, honestly, when I think about my life now, it is a little bit of a fairy tale at times. But I thought I'll get in with this guy, and I went around his house because he needed some guitar on something. And then one day he was like, yo, you want to be a composer? All right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go for a coffee. I'll leave you in my house. All right. Eat what you want. I'll be back in 2 hours. Write me something. Suddenly I forgot how to do music. I didn't know what I was doing. I was shitting my pants. And all I could think to do was, I'll go get a bowl of cereal then. So I thought I'd just eat. So I'm eating in this person's house I've never really met. I'm just eating some Weetabix. I don't know if you have that in South Africa. And I'm eating away. And I'm like, shit, I better write something. And like 10 minutes before he walks through the door, but by the way, this is like an audition to work with him. So I'm like bricking it. I've done nothing. And I'm like, 10 minutes left. Fuck. And I just wrote this like fairy tale fantasy thing with like a flute and some strings and shit. And I guess maybe it was kind of like Never After style. And he came back and he's like, that's really cool. Yeah, that's like an adventure thing. Yeah, you're on. And then he showed me how to really do the orchestra stuff. And I ended up working with him for a while on some BBC stuff and all the rest of it. And I got into scoring like short films and stuff like that, and TV, did a couple of like TV little advert things. And then I was like, holy shit, I've got the tools. I always knew I could do it, but I didn't know how. I didn't have the virtual instruments and all the rest of it. I didn't have the confidence. And then with Embers of a Dying World, the Mors album, that was like me pretty much just going like probably a little too ham on the orchestra, to be completely honest with you. So then when it came to 7, the latest album, it was like, well, let's just do the best blend of everything. And then there's plenty of orchestra going on, but there's also a lot of the synths that you'd hear in the Liberation album. And it really was like, let's try and balance this perfectly with everything. And I really feel like that worked for that album.
Arguably some of the best work. I mean, production-wise, like you can't even argue on that. So yeah, kudos again.
Thanks. Thank you, man.
Let's talk guitars. So generally, guitarists end up like acquiring tons of guitars because it's called GAS, guitar acquisition syndrome, right? And most of your videos feature your signature guitar, the Demoness. Do you have any guitars like hiding away that aren't that?
Oh geez.
Well, this is the only guitar that I have on this side of the world. Okay, so this is literally all I have. I'm not one of those people who collect guitars. I think by now I have every right to own at least 20 guitars, but I don't. I just don't have the money. It's as simple as that. I can't afford it. So I don't collect guitars like a lot of my friends have got like 40 guitars. I'm just like, how? I've made it work with one for the last 8 years. But to answer your question, I've got a PRS under my bed in the UK. My brother now lives in that house. So I've got a custom 24 just collecting dust, which I do need to ship over at some point. At my dad's house, there's my old Fender Strat in wine red, which was possibly a mistake. But you know, what you're gonna do. And that's it. Yeah, three guitars exist that belong to me. and that's. But I've only got one, and if anything happens to that guitar, I'm absolutely buggered. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, it's a little bit of inspiration for anybody out there that doesn't think you can make a favorable career, you know, off one or two axes. So there you go, prime example, right?
Yeah,
so,
you just got to work with what you got.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, you were mentioning the lovely topic of money. Let's carry on with that. It's always a fun topic of discussion. You recently started a Patreon account. How's that going at the moment? You're quite the content creator in terms of your YouTube. So how things been going on that account recently?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. I think some people don't realize that they've got something that people will happily support, and I think one of the biggest things that's lacking in the music industry at the moment is, you know, supporting an artist that you really like. And a lot of these artists out there, they don't know who you are. They don't know that they've even got fans. Well, they know they've got some, but they don't know you. You know, they don't know specifically. I don't know how many fans I've got. We don't, as Mors Principium Est, we don't know how many fans we've got. And it's all like, oh, done on numbers, isn't it? You know, like social media popularity contests and and the Spotify thing, which, by the way, is a joke if you're trying to make any money from it. You probably know. So, God, I digress. I've forgotten the question, to be honest. I always do this. Oh, man, we're talking about Patreon, right? Patreon it was like, as a musician, we're scared to ask for money. We're scared to ask for support because we're creatives. We're not business-minded naturally. Some people are more than others. I certainly have not been business-minded my whole life. Hence why I own one guitar, probably, but there we are. But yeah, Patreon was like, it was kind of me just going, you know what, if I just put up a stupid video, maybe people out there will want to support it. And they did, and lots of people came forward and were like, we want to support you. And it's like, wow, why didn't I do this fucking 10 years ago? I don't know, but there we go. It's not life-changing money, but it's like, it's really supporting me and allowing me to do this and not go back into a full-time shitty job, which, you know, not many people know, but that's what I've been doing. You know, that's what I was doing. I was working all kinds of, you know, 9-to-5 jobs, which were literally killing me. Like, you know, I don't know how much longer I'd be around if I was still doing those jobs, honestly. So yeah. Come support me on Patreon.
Yeah, well, I don't think you give yourself enough credit. Well, maybe you actually do now. Obviously, here you are talking to a couple of SA metalheads, you know, at the ass end of Africa. So your music's obviously reaching out. I guess let's kind of just have a little bit of a fun little mention, because the one thing that we did speak about earlier, you've been doing a little bit of collabs. What you were involved with was Slay at Home, video for Battery, with actually like a band that came down to South Africa, Darkest Hour. How was the whole process with doing that? I mean, have you met the guys beforehand, before coming up with the idea? Who approached you from Metal Injection? Weird, interesting thing, but it was killer. It was killer.
Yeah, thanks. It was awesome. It was so much fun, and obviously it's for charity. It's always for charity. I've done a few of those now. I think like the least I can do is do one of those, sit and play a guitar if it's raising money and stuff. And I want to do more of that kind of shit, because I think it's important. But Frank was the drummer in that video, and he's the guy behind Metal Injection, effectively. And I don't know, I ended up having dinner with him in LA once. I have no idea what was going on there. And he knew, what's weird is he knew an old childhood friend of mine, and he was like, oh yeah, she says hi. And I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah, again, I do wonder if I'm asleep sometimes and this is all a dream. But anyway, he invited me on to do that, and Gillion on bass from Scaleless Summit, and and obviously John from Darkest Hour, and it was just amazing. You know, it was really awesome. But I've not met the other two guys. I've only met Frank. But it was just awesome to collab. I'm always down to collab if I've got time, you know, and obviously if it's for a good cause, it's a no-brainer.
Definitely. I mean, you seem to have a natural ability to be able to deal with a lot of different personalities, because obviously the more stalwart you kind of get in this industry, the more, I could say, arguably opinionated you would get on certain things. So how do you as, like, I guess, a session artist, for use of a better word, find that balance between speaking your mind and kind of fitting in with what their strong points and abilities are?
Well, it's really just my way or the highway, you know. So everyone has to bend to my will. That's how it goes. No, honestly, I'm just super easygoing. Like, I've never had a problem. I've never ever had a problem with anyone. I don't, I'm very easy to get on with and collab with, and it's music. So I feel like everyone just has to have their bit and have their fun. And yeah, I've never considered it to be anything that needs a moment of thought. It's just, okay, we're going to do this. You know, I do a lot of guest solos for bands, and I'm very lucky because nobody ever comes back and says, oh, you know, that was a bit this or that. Like, sometimes I get a little bit, you know, I'm like, I've done about 4 this month. I'm going to do something a bit silly this time, and I'll get a song that's like, I had some black metal band, and I was doing stuff I shouldn't be doing on guitar with that. I was like dipping my toe into jazz on one of those tracks, and they loved it, and it was like, oh, great. Well, I don't know, maybe I'll see how silly I can get. Maybe I'll do some, like, I don't know what I can do, but it didn't, you know, I've never had like that moment where someone's, I don't know, egos are a real problem in music though. But
you've always seemed to gel well. You just seem to gel well, and whatever the project is, you always just seem to organically add that, you know, that Andy flair, but you fit in. It's just, I don't know, can't put you over enough, man. It's like you're a bit of a savant, not an idiot savant, but a savant.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. There's absolutely no room for ego in this bit. I hate ego. I hate pretentiousness, and I hate bullies. And I just think, you know, just make music and do what you're passionate about, and chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? It's not difficult.
It's all about noise. Make some noise. Damn it. Make some, you know. Anyway.
So we're coming to sort of the end of our cool chill session chat. There are 2 things that I'd like to round this conversation off with. So you're a prolific vlogger, metal musician, and composer, as you've mentioned. Do you have any advice for anyone that would be considering going down that path? And also, like, don't shy away from real talk, you know, like, give it to us straight.
I will. Okay, well, this is the thing. If you want to go down that path of being, it depends what you're in it for. It really does. So you talked about vlogging, and unfortunately, you'll find if you want to be a musician, for any reason, you're going to end up doing 90% video editing. Like, that's how it is these days. And it's the bane of my life sometimes. I love video editing, but it can get too much of a good thing, I guess. And it can really weigh you down. I don't know how those full-time YouTubers do it, but the only advice I can really give is just to do it for the right reasons, because then you may get exhausted emotionally and physically and mentally, but at the end of the day, you'll always fall back on your passion and the real reason, which is hopefully for money, hard, cold cash. All right, so just make sure you do it for the money, and you'll be fine. No, yeah, I guess the real hard talk is you're probably not going to make much money. You're probably not going to get famous, and you're probably, you know, ultimately, you have to. The only goal you can really have, because the only one thing you have in control of is how good your music is to you. You know, and that's the only barometer you can use. So just make the best music you can. Don't be an asshole, and you'll probably do all right. And just enjoy it. You know.
Okay. Such words of wisdom, Andy. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, honestly, I couldn't think of a better way to end this awesome chat. It's really been an honor talking to you. You're a gentleman and a squire. And
thank you so much.
Congratulations and all the success. We'll just keep on listening. You just keep on shredding. And yeah, Alec, what do you say? Are we done for another week?
Basically, unless there's anything that Andy would like to shamelessly plug at this juncture.
Of course. The list is endless. No, obviously, look, if anyone wants to support me on Patreon, hit me up on Patreon. I'd love to get to know you guys. We've got a Discord and we're all trying to build a community there, so that's good fun. You've got lots of perks and stuff. But otherwise, I'm working on a new solo album, which is almost done. I don't know when it will be released. That's a different matter altogether with all the bullshit of marketing, and you know how it goes. But yeah, you can follow me everywhere. There's no point me telling you where to go. I am literally a virus upon the internet, and you will find me wherever you go. Well, almost everywhere. But also, I want to say thanks to you guys. Thanks for having me on and having a little chat. And I don't care how big or small, you know, the channels are and stuff. I want to get out there and talk to people. And thanks for being interested in what I'm doing. It really means a lot.
And as long as you know that there is support and, you know, lovers of all things Gillion down here in Africa, or up here in Africa in your case. So, man,
Somewhere,
again, you just keep on shredding. We will keep on listening.
Love you guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, that's it for another week. We will be back same time, same place on the interweb. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, that's it. Hope you guys have an awesome week ahead. Keep that social distancing and all that shit going. And yeah, just keep safe. Awesome, guys. Laters.